commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln, this is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score! Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers.
Black shirts answer the call one more time.
And Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln, your tire store next door with 4 Lincoln locations. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hey, that's right. Welcome in. Got a little bit of Old School coming your way here. Appreciate everyone's patience as you had not Old School on the air for the last couple and a half hours. Really do appreciate all the texts on our Sartor Heyman Jewelers text line. But don't worry, we're here for a good time, not necessarily for a long time. We'll take you right up until the top of the hour at 6 o'clock. But it is Old School, brought to you, as always, by the great folks at Graham Tire Company. They're proudly celebrating 75 years of serving the Midwest. Graham Tire Company with 4 Lincoln locations. Cars, light truck repairs, brakes, oil changes, more than just tires. Really, truly appreciate them. 402-464-5685. I'm Austin Orman, by the way. Joining me for the next half an hour or so, it is Nick Zahner. Nick, welcome into Old School.
Good evening. There we go. Hello, Austin. Good to spend time with you as always, my friend.
Likewise. You got a chance to talk Nebraska Purdue.
I did.
I did not.
Yeah, I know.
Yet.
We need to.
We got about 10 minutes here in this first segment, is what I'll give us. Actually, we got about 15 minutes. How about that? We'll go about 15 minutes here on Nebraska men's basketball versus Purdue. An 80-77 game, Nick, in overtime that I think if you would have told people Nebraska's going to, be in a one-possession game in overtime, okay, sure, Purdue's good, Nebraska's good, probably a charged environment at Pinnacle Bank Arena. So even if 80-77 makes sense, I still haven't wrapped my mind fully around how we got to 80-77. With as poorly as Nebraska started, with as well as Nebraska played down the stretch at times in the second half, taking advantage of Purdue's mistakes. It's a gut punch of a loss. And I think that, last night on postgame and throughout the course of the day, we've heard from 2 groups of people. We've heard from the dark cloud people. It's all crumbling down. Is this team really as good as we thought it was? In the silver lining, folks, of, hey, Nebraska took a team's best punch, wasn't their best performance. They made it respectable. You don't come from down 22 against Purdue very often. Do you find yourself in one of those camps? Or are you in a combination of them? Where are you at with the regards to last night's game?
I feel differently about last night than I did after Michigan.
Okay.
And not as if I felt great after Michigan and I don't feel great after Purdue, and not vice versa the other way around. I'm somewhat neutral. Last night didn't change a whole lot for me. And I think the reason being, and I had to keep on using the caveat on the drive earlier this morning. In no way am I justifying the loss, or am I saying that it hurts less, Austin? But I'll say this quickly and then let you run wild with it, since you haven't been able to discuss it in depth. Everything that Nebraska did and the result of last night, and really you could say the result in Michigan and the result against Illinois, have been because of Nebraska.
Sure.
And this isn't me. I am not a moral victory guy. Michigan, you could somewhat take up because the lack of availability for some guys against Michigan was impressive, that they were able to fight the way they did. But I sat there last night and I thought, man, Nebraska probably feels similar to Illinois, like they let one get away. Because if you come out with a little bit better energy, if you come out hitting just a few more shots, I looked at the stats, Austin. Nebraska, in a normal game, they played kind of their game last night. for the most part, maybe outside the first 10 minutes, you forced your opponent to shoot a lot of threes.
A school record by 11.
And this is my point, is you forced Purdue to miss 33 3-point attempts or 3-point shots last night. That is what Nebraska's done all season long. But, and frankly, at the end, even in overtime, you forced Purdue to go one of their last 7. It just was a gut punch at the worst time possible. And you started off just a little too flat. And no good team, whether you're ranked 7th in the country or you're unranked, should be able to. Fred Hoiberg said it himself last night. They lost the game in the first 3 minutes.
He said that. The other part that I think is interesting about what Fred Hoiberg mentioned in postgame last night, Nick, was we've played against bigger opponents and we haven't had anything like this happen all year. It was a bad night to have a bad night. And yet you almost overcame your bad night through, quite honestly, sheer grit and resilience, right? There's no reason Nebraska should have been in that game. They had no business hanging around that game as long as they did. You don't often see Purdue, I'm going to use the M word here, melt down the way they did.
Purdue was shooting threes in the final couple of minutes of the game, Austin, and I sat there and thought, what are you doing?
But here's the thing. I was okay with those shots from Purdue because CJ Cox hit a couple huge ones.
Good point.
To keep Purdue, in the lead, right? To re-extend that lead. Jack Benter hit a big one, right? And if Fletcher Loyer or Braden Smith are going to take an open three, if you're Matt Painter, you're like, what else am I supposed to do? I drew it up, right? What stands out to me is, number one, a scoreless first half again for Price Sanford, right? He's got to find ways, and Nebraska's got to find ways to get him in the scoring column consistently. The fact that he can go on runs is part of maybe his identity as a player, but you shouldn't have to wait until, 2.5 minutes into the second half for Price Sanford to get on the board. He missed a couple decent looks early on that would have helped Nebraska keep pace there. But Nick, the way I wrote this down in my notes, hoping we'd have a little bit of time to talk about this, for Nebraska, what are the concerns and what's the concern level? So I'll give you the first word here for these 4 potential concerns, and then I'll go after that. Rebounding, offensive or defensive. Is it a concern, and what's your concern level on the Jay Foreman 1 to 7 scale?
Okay, so on the 1 to 7, generic rebounding, total rebounding, Nebraska's just undersized. Like, there was a reason that Sam Hoiberg before, the last few games, now Rink Mass, Berke Buchtengel are tied for the team high in rebounds per game. Sam is slightly behind him by a few points, a few decimal points, that is. It's just always going to be like Nebraska has won games all season long by being out rebounded. That part didn't concern me. So on that topic, 1 or 2 for in all honesty. The offensive rebound number last night with 21
allowed.
Allowed. That is the one that's a little more concerning to me. Guys like Braden Frager just don't have the bounce right now that we saw maybe prior to the ankle injury. I thought, the last one where I believe it was Cox that got the offensive rebound that eventually kicked it back out to Fletcher or Braden Smith, and then he dribbled in, passed down to Clough, and at the end won. That was just like Sam's trying his best there. So on the 1 to 7 scale, I would say a 4.
Yeah, I'm at like a 2.5 overall, because I think Fred Hoiberg has a point that it has never been this bad for Nebraska this year. And I think this team, has had the outlier games against the bigger teams on their competition. Michigan was a little bit of an outlier, Illinois certainly, and now Purdue. But Nebraska has ways it can mitigate that, right? Rink Mass took a lot of blame in postgame for not hitting Oscar Clough first, for letting him get position, right? If you're Braden Frager, and maybe you don't have the same bounce as you're working your way back, you're Sam Hoiberg, who's the least of my concerns rebounding, but you don't have the height. It becomes important for this team to do what its head coach says, the little things. Do your work early. If you're not just going to go out jump a guy, if you're not just going to go outwork a guy and you just hope the ball falls to you, or you hit him with a little forearm and think that's enough to box out against these teams that have specifically targeted the offensive glass as a way to beat you, it's not enough. And Nick, I really think this shifted. Yes, when the schedule got cranked up a little bit, but when Mast and Frager went down, Nebraska said they had to back off practices just because of available bodies. Leo Curtis was out, no Ugnius Jerusha-Vicious, and Jared Garcia got minutes, but was a non-factor again. Nebraska, to me, can solve its rebounding issues by continuing to make it an emphasis in practice and being physical in practice. That is what it was. That's what got that team to that acceptable level of focus, where maybe they're not going to out-rebound teams, but they'll play even enough. But when the bodies started dropping and guys were in and out of the rotation, Nebraska backed it off in practice, and I think it backed it off in Nebraska's players' minds.
I think you're absolutely right, Austin. And this is something I talked about with AD this morning, is it feels like Nebraska just needs one more guy. Like it needs like an eighth guy, right?
That was the next concern.
Okay, perfect segue. Unintentionally. I think, I mean, gosh dang, they're playing really a 7-man rotation right now, with Braden and Cale Jacobson coming off the bench. Yeah, Jared Garcia got 5 minutes in the 45 minutes of game time last night. All in the first half. And it's
until the end, I guess he was in on the inbound or whatever.
Yes, for offensive defense substitution reasons. I just think like last night we saw where Rink had to kind of back it off a little bit in the later stages because he was dealing with some foul trouble, and he eventually fouled out. It was early in overtime. He fouled out, right? And so it was like, man, would you have liked to have Rink out there instead in the last possession? Maybe, but also he didn't back it off in totality, because guess what? He was the reason that they got the offensive rebound in regulation. And people want to talk about the free throw. Free throw doesn't matter if Rink doesn't use the second and third effort to get the offensive board. So
and free throws hurt Purdue more than they did Nebraska.
Exactly.
Any team can point back to free throws as the reason that they should have won the game.
Yeah.
But if Purdue makes its free throws down the stretch, you don't have that Nebraska comeback. Yes, Nebraska can now point to, we went to overtime, make one more free throw, you win the game. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
Purdue had so many more chances to put that game away. Nebraska had some chances to keep pace more early on, but it was not a great night at the free throw line for Nebraska. I get that, but to me, free throws were less of an issue for Nebraska, much more for Purdue.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree, especially when you're heading down the stretch and you're in a neutral site or even a road site. Purdue's got to go to a couple of daunting places in the next couple of weeks to round out their conference slate. And then once you get to Chicago in the Big Ten tournament and then the March Madness later in the month, I mean, those types of things are even magnified even more than on February 10th at Pinnacle Bank Arena when you're trying to stay in the regular season conference race. I think I looked at a couple of things last night, Austin, and I see, injuries were the one concern, I think, as we entered the Big Ten slate, where we said, okay, the one thing that might derail, and not derail in totality, but just
knock off pace,
a speed bump, whatever it might be, whatever terminology or phrase you want to use. It felt like injuries were the biggest concern, like the biggest thing that they would have to hurdle through or go over. And I think, you might look at that Leo Curtis injury or unavailability and go, oh, well, Leo hasn't played a whole lot. Well, remember what Leo did against Michigan. We learned a lot of things about Leo, and maybe he wouldn't have had the same value last night. But you talk about guys being available, lighting a fire under other players. And I feel like Jared Garcia right now, unfortunately, is just kind of just out there in space. And I don't want to sit. I will never sit here and be like, oh, that guy's just taking up space, because he's working a hell of a lot harder than I am. Right. Like I'm not out there. I'm not involved in the practices and this, that, and the third. But Fred Hoiberg, we could see it throughout the process and the evolution of the game last night, where when Nebraska was making runs, there were times he kept Price on the bench because he wasn't involved in the big momentous plays.
Yeah. And it was Cale, Sam, Jamarcus, Frager, and usually Rink.
Which is a really fascinating lineup in its own way. But then when you get down to the stretch time, it's, okay, who can you rely on? Well, when Rink goes out, you would like to have maybe a little bit of an offensive ability that Jared Garcia has, but there's so much other stuff going on with him that it makes it hard to trust. And that's just that eighth body in that rotation with an additional little bit of size that Nebraska could use.
What's your number on 1 to 7?
In terms of
concern
for depth?
With everything you just said.
I go a little higher up and say 5 on that. Just because this is the time now. These next couple of weeks will tell you a lot. Nebraska's got some less formidable opponents, right? They get some of them at home. Northwestern's one. Like, Northwestern feels like a great opportunity for Jared Garcia to get back on track.
Kendall Blue to save some minutes for Cale or Sam.
100%, right? Like, we looked at it early in the year as like rink management or rink load management. I look at this as like Jared Garcia opportunity to get back on track. Leo Curtis, if he can be healthy enough, get back on track, get some more valuable playing time. These next couple of weeks, as you have, Northwestern on the schedule, Penn State on the schedule, Maryland on the schedule, these are great opportunities for Nebraska
to start.
Yes, for Nebraska to start playing their quote unquote best basketball of the season or get back to what it was late November throughout December when it really is coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, I'm maybe a little less concerned with Nebraska's depth when it relates to the postseason, but part of getting to the postseason is having a successful regular season.
You're still in the thick of everything right now.
You are. You're at 10-3 with a couple other teams at 8-4 and 9-4, and a couple teams a game and a half up on you. If you're Nebraska, you're right where you want to be. You probably need 8.5 guys to make it through the regular season. You probably will only play 7.5 in the postseason, right? Nebraska's 7-man rotation needs to save some of those miles now. The last concern here, Nick, that I want to bring up with you, we'll talk some Husker baseball as they head to Phoenix in our next segment. Edge/intensity. Are you at all concerned with that for Nebraska men's basketball right now?
I'm not. I think I look at last night and they've had some rough stretches within a game, in my opinion. Minnesota's first half wasn't great defensively. I mean, but also part of that was you just tipped your cap to Minnesota and said, okay, you made 11 threes in 20 minutes of basketball. Go do that for another 20 minutes. They weren't able to do it, and the better team prevailed. Last night just felt uncharacteristic, and I'm not too concerned about that just yet. I feel like Fred also has the ability, and his staff, like they have this ability that we've seen time and time again, even previous years, to just light a fire. Like I go back to, in my years, forgive me, my years cross over and stuff, but it was essentially, I believe it was the year like Emmanuel Bandamel got hurt and they ended the game or ended the regular season on a streak.
Yeah, 22-23.
Yeah, so it was that year where Nebraska lost, I think 15 games. No, it wasn't 15 games in a row that year.
It was a lot of games.
It was a lot of games in a row. And they're still able to go to Madison and beat Wisconsin. They're able to go on the road and contend against some teams that, frankly, on paper are better than them. Fred and his staff, a lot of the same bodies there are here now that were there back then. They were able to light some fires under those guys all the way back in those losing seasons. And we've seen it consistently these last couple of years. The body of work of what this program, I'll use that word, which is crazy to talk about with Nebraska basketball, the body of work through this program the last couple of years, I have zero concern in Fred and his staff's ability to get these guys going.
I'm going to put my concern level for this at a 2.5.
Okay.
Where it's at least on my radar.
That's surprising.
Because the reason that I bring it up is because Fred Hoiberg said in the second half against Illinois, we got kind of shell-shocked. We got away from ourselves. The first half, it was uncharacteristic. It's not who we are.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen that from Nebraska. And maybe it's just because they're losing. And I don't want to be the guy to blow this out of proportion.
Yeah.
But I think this is a veteran team, Nick, that we've seen be able to get back on keel in some of those tough moments. And that's been in the middle of the game without needing the halftime
Great point.
Adjustment or the, whiteboard smashing like at Northwestern last year for Fred Hoiberg. And so I think it's as simple as Rink Mass being out and not around the team and not playing as big a role. He's one of those steadying forces. So as Rink continues to work back into shape and play well, I asked him how his legs were feeling. He said, yeah, good. It's back to normal as he thinks they could be. I think some of that edge is going to come back. But it is a little concerning to me that over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, we've heard more, well, that just wasn't us. We didn't come out and respond in the second half like we normally would. And I'm willing to chalk it up to Rink Mass not being in the lineup as much or not playing as well. And I think if the schedule sets up the way I think you and I think it does for Nebraska to have some more success down the stretch, that winning feeling will help rediscover that edge that's been, maybe a little lacking, maybe here and there in spurts. Like, you're not coming back from down 22 against Purdue without edge and intensity. Well, and that's not what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But in terms of the Nebraska team the fans fell in love with, I think there's another gear that they can reach, is all I'm saying with concern.
Well, and Austin, I know we're up against the break, so I'll keep this short. I mean, think about what us who attempt to analyze this team on a consistent basis and stuff, what we kind of chalked it up to and talked about so often as Nebraska went through their non-conference slate was especially, I think, the stretch of, at the Pentagon against Oklahoma. And I think about the time, the adversity that settled in,
Indiana, late in Ohio State.
That was later in the year, but I say like earlier in the season when they were at neutral sites against New Mexico and neutral site against Kansas State. Sure. Like, we forget about that Kansas State game and how much of just a physical, I don't want to say bloodbath, but a physical fight that was, where it was back. Nebraska came out guns ablaze, and then Kansas State got right back in it. And it was, you continued to see Nebraska be tested in the fortitude that they have for it. And they kept on responding in positive ways. And I think we looked at that and said, wow, look at that veteran leadership on the floor. Not only is that Fred and them maybe taking on the personality of their staff, but look at what get old, stay old. Like we're seeing it and the value of it play out in real time. And maybe we've seen that somewhat be put on the back burner over these last couple of games.
And I think it's just as simple as get some wins under your belt.
Sure.
It's easy to be confident when you're winning.
Absolutely.
I don't think Nebraska's shook in the traditional sense, but I think it's a group that could use a boost. Speaking of a group that might need a boost, Nebraska baseball. Good RPI boost available for them here in the first couple weekends. Let's set you up for Nebraska, the MLB Desert Invite in Phoenix to wrap up Old School. All right, Lincoln, if you're a diesel technician who's ready to earn up to $40 an hour and you're tired of working nights and weekends, listen up. Inland Truck Parts and Service is hiring experienced diesel technicians right here in Lincoln, and they're offering what every hardworking tech wants. Monday through Friday hours, no nights, no weekends, and paid training on advanced diesel technology. With 37 locations across 12 states, career advancement opportunities are endless. Start building towards your future and apply today at inlandtruck.com. That's inlandtruck.com. Or text APPLY to 785-369-1320.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Big value and big flavor meet at Wings and Rings thanks to the all-new delicious Duo Combo. This is the one you've been waiting for. Get 1 half-sized appetizer and 2 entrees with a side for only $19.99. Bring a friend for the best deal in town on any day of the week, during game time, or whenever the heck you want. Their made-to-order wings and chicken sandwiches are waiting for you at their 68th and O and 40th and Old Cheney locations. Stop by Wings and Rings and celebrate every day with the best meal deal in town.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Moe's Moving is now Moe's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has 0 hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com.
The place you call home should always be a place of comfort. Warm and cozy in winter, cool and relaxing in summer. If your home isn't delivering the comfort you expect, call Bryant. It's more than just hot and cold to them. It's about providing the best comfort solutions. And Bryant gives you a full 24-month test drive on your home comfort system. Get full details at BryantLincoln.com or call 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Just got the brakes fixed on my car today.
You did? You haven't even left the office.
I didn't need to. I got a guy who picks up my car and drops it off when it's done.
Who's your guy?
Graham Tire. They have pickup and delivery service at all 5 of their Lincoln locations.
Schedule your service online on the Pickup and Delivery tab at GrahamTireLincoln.com. That's GrahamTireLincoln.com. Let us do the running. Some limitations apply. See store for details.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back in one final time for the day for Old School. Short version of the show, but appreciate everyone who stuck it out and is with us here for this little bit normal show. As always, tomorrow, 3 hours, we will have Thursday. And Evan Bland moved back from today to tomorrow, so we'll talk some more Husker baseball, a little bit of football with Evan Bland. Big thanks, as always, to Graham Tire for their sponsorship of Old School. Nick, Nebraska baseball hosted it. Black unis are back.
They sure are.
They're back. How about that? Making the trip to Phoenix, I presume.
It's an exciting weekend. I mean, it's a very similar conversation to what we have each year with Husker baseball, where there's some big opportunities right off the bat. It's important to always remind just everybody listening that for the casual baseball fans out there, it's a privilege to be invited to these tournaments. Yeah. It's a privilege to be included, not only because fans will travel, but Nebraska, for the most part, has held their own decently in these early season tournaments. A big reason why Nebraska sometimes loses and it's not fair to blow it out of proportion is because a lot of the teams like a Florida State, like an Auburn, even a Grand Canyon this first weekend.
Well, this first weekend, UConn is on top of the Big East.
Yes.
Normally, Northeastern has dominated the NEC.
Well, that and they've snuck up on some teams in regionals the last couple of years.
Cam Schlittler,
that's right,
Northeastern guy.
That's right.
Grand Canyon, Nebraska's more familiar with, and then Stanford has had a bunch of talent just this
100%.
First weekend on top of Louisville, Kansas State, who's kind of in the same battles with you regionally. And to your point, Florida State, the team has been to the most College World Series without winning one.
It's a lot of those teams, what they have in common is that they're able to practice outside. And there's a lot of things creatively that you can do indoors, but nothing's the same as being able to get out there and see the ball fly through the air. And fortunately, Nebraska, and this is where we'll shout out our friends at Sandhills Global and obviously the Sandhills Global complex out there. Nebraska practices outdoors. There's been many days where I've drove by and Nebraska's been out there and stuff in the afternoons and things like that. But still, having the geographical advantages that maybe a Stanford does, or even a Louisville, or maybe not so much Louisville, but Florida State does, Auburn as well, who's somebody that they'll play later in the year in a 3-game set in a couple of weeks here. Like those have their advantages, but Nebraska, for the most part, here they are. This is going to be a tournament that's sponsored by Major League Baseball. They're going to be on MLB Network this Friday in game number 1. The rest of the games will be available on stream at MLB.com. Then the following week, guess what? It's the college baseball series down at Globe Life, and you got some notable programs that are going to be there. And Nebraska has a chance to really prove themselves this year. And I think they love the idea of the home run ball this year. And so for the casual baseball fans that love dingers, tune into Husker baseball.
On that front, really curious to see how this weekend goes and how that affects the approach all year. Because, Nick, what do we hear about spring training in Major League Baseball all the time? The ball flies. Okay, so if you're in Nebraska, it's great to have a power approach if that's what you want to do. But don't forget, when you finally get back up north to play your conference games in your midweeks, ball's not going to fly quite the same until you start getting into maybe late April into May. And then, if you dare to dream big, even into the month of June. So there's that to keep in mind. We got the rotation already for Nebraska. Obviously, Nick, it'll be 4 right-handed pitchers in a row for Nebraska. No surprise, obviously, with Ty Horn. You get Cooper Katsky coming in with the MAC Pitcher of the Year from Miami, Ohio. And then it was Gavin Blackowitz, and I'm blanking on the other one.
Hold on, I was looking up stats real quick here. I can let you know right now. So in this order,
it was Yasa. It was Yasa.
Yes,
Yasa.
Carson Yasa. Thank you.
I don't know why that slipped my mind. All 4 righties in that rotation. Which, if those are the 4 best guys, so be it. But Nick, I think when you think about the rotation, having a left-handed option in there in the midweek feels like another missed opportunity maybe for Caleb Clark, who's looking for his footing. Grant Clevenger is a senior, I think should have been in competition for one of those spots, even though he's a midweek bullpen guy last year. Jalen Worthley's been a bullpen guy, so I'm not shocked by that one. But Colin Novacek, didn't take enough of a step forward. So I understand, on the surface why Nebraska would go with those 4 guys. But man, you'd think they'd have to have a lefty starter or 2 somewhere in there in the, even just the Kyle Perry innings eaters sort of midweek mold.
I think you're right. I think it shows that maybe there's a lot of things up for grabs. Also, we saw Will Bolt and his staff and Coach Childress also, they maneuvered and went away and pivoted, as the season progressed last year as well. This is going to be, this isn't going to be groundbreaking analysis. I'm really excited to see the year 2 jump from Horn. This is somebody that Nebraska last year, as a true freshman, inserted into their starting rotation. He faced some big time opponents last year. Vanderbilt, he was on the mound for the win against Vanderbilt. He was the starter on the mound for the loss against LSU. later in these early season tournaments. What did that experience and those experience provide for him from a growth opportunity to see, okay, this is the top end competition that I could be facing off against. Now you're the dude. You're the Friday night guy. In Nebraska, well, maybe on the back end, they're starting and relief pitchers haven't been the strongest in recent years. They've had a pretty good stretch of Friday night guys for the most part. And you go back to Brett Sears, who was Big Ten Pitcher of the Year, and years before that, like this is Friday night's your dude. And Ty Horn is kind of the guy that everybody's looking at to say, okay, go be a dude that we are expecting you to be.
In a whole offseason as the dude, I think can go one of two ways for guys. Either put undue pressure on themselves to come out and be lights out, or imbibes them with that confidence, right? That, okay, I'm the dude. My team believes in me. My coaching staff believes in me. Take it and run. And, Nick, we're baseball guys. As much as it's great to talk about the long ball for offense, we know it's going to come down to pitching for Nebraska.
It always does.
It always does, regardless of who you are. Have we seen the Rob Childress effect in full since he returned to Nebraska? I would say, it's been fine. It's been probably a little bit better, but has there been that, hey, look, this is the Rob Childress imprint? It's been hit or miss, in my opinion.
I think I'm less worried about the weekends. And I think when you look back at the last few years, the biggest flashing indicator or flashing light has been the lack of success midweek, the struggles midweek. You haven't had, when we talk about Rob Childress and that effect, the development piece of it, you haven't had the guy that's kind of come out of nowhere, right? Like Carson Yass is that guy, last year, right? Where they gave him some tries on the bump and he just wasn't able to go out there and command. And it's one of those things of like, can you command a fastball and a changeup and a little bit of curve, like, or, a little bit of spin. And really, especially on a midweek when you're playing Omaha or whether you're, Nebraska's going to have a 3-game set against Maine at home. Like, are you able to just go out there and command the zone with a fastball and some sort of off speed consistently, and then rely on just sheer talent to win a game? Baseball is baseball. The little things matter so much, and everything gets magnified when you're within those 9 innings. I just think that, there's going to be a lot of times just because the weather does play a factor, and there's going to be chilly nights. I look at their schedule here, and it's going to be 6 p.m. on a Wednesday against North Dakota State on March 11th. Woo! I mean, more than likely, you're probably looking sub 40s, like lower than 40 degrees by 6 p.m. And by the time that one's over, feels like of 25 with a little bit of nasty wind blowing in at Haymarket. How are you able to combat that? They've struggled with it in the years past. Hopefully some guys, they utilize the portal this year, and hopefully some guys are able to step up and maybe work themselves into a weekend spot.
You combat it with gritty over pretty. So when you say long ball, you think pretty. So I'm fascinated by that as well. Just looking at these first 2 weekends, and let's even throw that Auburn series in there, Nick. Yeah. The first 10 games of the year before Nebraska comes home on March 3rd for the first time. 5-5, a good enough starting spot for Nebraska. Do they have to be over 500 for you to feel confident about the direction? Where's kind of your sweet spot for your, where does Nebraska need to be coming out of, the month of February?
I don't know if you can put wins and losses on it. And that might be a cop-out answer.
It is.
I know. I think you'd love to be above 500. I think you look at this MLB Desert Invitational this week, and I think if you go 3-1, I think you feel really good about where things go. Naturally, it's going to be a cop-out because I'm going to sit here and say, man, I would love to see Nebraska, I think it depends on how they win games. Sure. Are they winning games by slugging it out 14-12? It might be a little bit more alarming. Are they able to maybe limit some mistakes defensively, but then also realizing that it's early in the year and that those bumps and bruises might just happen? So I'm going to take the wait and see approach. I always give AD so much crap because he always does. He's like, we'll just wait and see, wait and find out. But I think I'm not ready to put they need to be 6-4, 7-3, simply because I think there's a lot of uncertainty with this team. And we're going to talk about it tomorrow during the day at some point. Like, man, the way that the defense is set up, you went into the portal and got guys that can hit the, swing the stick. Devin Nunez, talk about a second-year jump, like somebody that's going to anchor that outfield spot. There's a lot of promise and excitement with this team, but it's how do you win games? Are you winning them 14-12? That's not going to be, possible, in my opinion, in early March.
Probably not. But is that the SEC approach? we got to slug with them. I don't know.
What's the expectation? And we can dive into this deeper tomorrow.
Yeah, this might be, since I hit the music.
That's fine.
Bad. But no,
because
for me, just have a successful enough regular season to where you're in the regional conversation, right? If you're going to go and be in the conversation to host a regional, that's a no doubt success. But I'm kind of sick and tired of Nebraska leaving NCAA tournament qualification up to the Big Ten tournament.
Okay, I'm with that as well. I think for me, real quick, Will Bolt and their staff puts expectations on themselves, and that's something I've always admired. Do we hold them to that? What's the right approach to it? And it's open for interpretation.
The fans do it. It does Troy Dannon do it? That's the other piece of things.
Black uniforms.
Black unis. They're back, baby. Need new tires? Go to Graham Tire. More than just tires, though. Brakes, oil changes, all that good stuff. Car, light truck repairs. For Nick Sainert, I'm Austin Norman. This has been Old School. Back with a full show tomorrow.
Just got the brakes fixed on my car today.
You did? You haven't even left the office.
I didn't need to. I got a guy who picks up my car and drops it off when it's done.
Well, who's your guy?
Graham Tire. They have pickup and delivery service at all 5 of their Lincoln locations.
Schedule your service online on the Pickup and Delivery tab at GrahamTireLincoln.com. That's GrahamTireLincoln.com. Let us do the running. Some limitations apply. See store for details.
Hi, I'm Scott Miller, Business Development Officer at Midwest Bank's Lincoln branches. As a lifelong Lincolnite with over 30 years of experience in financial management, I'm here to help your business grow and succeed. My focus is building strong relationships with businesses and clients across Lincoln. Because at Midwest Bank, we believe banking is about people, not just numbers. Visit us at midwest.bank or stop by one of our Lincoln locations. Your community, your bank. Midwest Bank. Member FDIC.
A lot of people in the summertime think, gee, I want to build a new home. By the time they go through the process of sitting down, getting the permits, and getting the home started, the home isn't done until January or February.
Bob Benish is the founder and president of Aspen Builders, online at aspenbuildersinc.com.
I think the best time to start designing your new home is the month of February. Get an early start on it. Sit down.